I went, okay, now I've got it. And then we took off from there.
So I want to look at the other side of Skins now, or probably it's the other side of Jaimie Fuller. So you have an amazing, successful company now. You're saying yourself, though, that it's not exactly where you want it to be, and you've still got a lot more work to do.
I don't think it ever is.
You're never satisfied, but fair enough. And you're involved in the business and the brand itself and the culture of the company and the true spirit of competition and the fact that you want an even playing field.
Yep.
And that there's been some true lows in sport and some moments there that people, I'm sure those particular people would rather forget. But what are the highs? Before we talk about the lows, because the lows are important because it's brought out another side of you. It's your view, it's what you've done for the sporting industry across many codes. But what are some of the highs that you think that you've been fortunate enough to be associated with Skins and maybe some of the athletes who have really been outstanding?
The highs are very numerable. Probably last year we did a campaign aimed at FIFA, and the best way for us to get to FIFA was to go after their sponsors. We wanted to target the soft underbelly. And we realised that we thought that the sponsors were vulnerable because FIFA had awarded the 2022 World Cup to Qatar.
Yeah.
Qatar have got a labour system called kafala. Kafala is indentured slavery in anyone's language. The bottom of the barrel workers of the world come from Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan, North Korea, Indonesia. And so Qatar relies on bringing these people that are so vulnerable to Qatar to work in construction projects. To give you a bit of a snapshot, the population of Qatar is 2.3 million people. That consists of 1.95 million foreigners and 350,000 Qatari nationals. And those 1.99 million foreigners, almost all of them are migrant labourers. Like I say, the bottom of the barrel, the most vulnerable people you can get, including East Africans. And these poor people go to Qatar, they go on a 2-year contract. They have to lodge their passports with their employers when they get there, so their passports are kept back from them. Even if they have their passports, they can't leave the country without formal approval and certification from their employers. They live in the most horrendous, disgusting conditions. Their death rates are hugely high. Their working conditions are appalling. The temperatures they have to work in, middle of summer, in excess of 50 degrees. It's just unacceptable in anyone's language.
And this is who FIFA awarded the next
World Cup. So FIFA awarded the 2022 World Cup to Qatar. So I flew to Doha, capital of Qatar. Through a fixer, I got smuggled into some labour camps there and took hidden camera footage of the living conditions and the working conditions and interviewed some of these workers, Nepalese workers. Went back to London and we made a very short film called The Hypocrisy World Cup. And it was called Hypocrisy World Cup because we were calling out FIFA sponsors, particularly their 4 US ones, Coke, Visa, McDonald's and Budweiser, as being hypocritical. Coca-Cola signs up to the United Nations Charter of Human Rights. Adidas has got this most amazing supply chain policies protecting people who sew their products. They're not directly employed by Adidas, but Adidas have a responsibility for those workers who work for a subcontractor. And this is down to the Nike sweatshop campaigns 15 odd years ago, and that changed the face of all subcontracting that now makes all brands, and not just in sport, but in general apparel.
Yeah, and
not just
fashion
apparel,
as well, yeah.
not just fashion apparel as well. Things like, Apple. Apple are now accountable for the workers' conditions in factories in China that manufacture the iPhone. So we basically said, hey Adidas, you've got kudos to you for having an amazing supply chain policy and well done for looking after those workers. Well, what the fuck goes on with these poor people that are building this infrastructure in Qatar? And you're giving money to FIFA, and FIFA is legitimising slavery by awarding the World Cup to Qatar. And so, like I said, we targeted the 4 American ones. And I was really fortunate because we've got legitimacy around issues to do with commerce, sport, and sponsorship, but we don't have that legitimacy in human rights. So one of the first things I did was I went looking for a collaborator, and I went to the TUC, the Trades Union Congress in the UK. They had a program called Play Fair Qatar, where they were using the World Cup to highlight labour abuses that were going on. And they introduced me to the International Trade Union Confederation, the ITUC, which is the umbrella movement for all democratic unions around the world. And the most amazing woman runs that organisation.
It has to be a woman, of course.
It is a woman.
Yep.
It's Sharon Burrow. And Sharon used to be head of the ACTU here in Australia. Today, Sharon is the most influential unionist in the world. She has 190 million members, and she has direct one-on-one relationships with the world leaders. And Sharon got involved with our campaign and was awesome. So when we launched the campaign with Sharon in London, very quickly it went viral. And very quickly I had Coca-Cola reach out to me saying we need to talk. And that started a discussion with Coca-Cola, which then led to them getting on board and endorsing our message for reform in FIFA, which automatically led to Visa doing the same thing, and then McDonald's, and finally Budweiser. So this tiny, pissy little Australian compression brand was able to move the likes of Coke, Visa, the biggest brands in the world.
Yes, but where I would disagree with you is that it's Jaimie Fuller who suddenly stepped up to advocate for that. Because without you, it's a product. But now it's a phenomena, and it's a culture, and it's a belief.
But this is why we take this really seriously, because the philosophy is simple. If you want to talk about brand building, great brands believe in something. Great brands have principles. Some people think that brand building is you put a logo on a product, you stick it on a shelf, and you sell it. That's not brand building. Brand building is about connecting with the consumer. Brand building is about articulating to the consumer what it is you stand for, and really important too is the tone of voice. How you articulate that, where you articulate, who you articulate that to. And so when we defined ours around fueling the true spirit of competition, what we really did was we entered into a discussion around integrity. We entered into a discussion around what does sport mean? What's the power of sport? And when you look at sport and look at the power it has to change the world, and you understand it, and then you put yourself in the position that we're in, and you think, shit, a brick, we can have an effect. And this is when you start to see opportunities to do things.
You were affecting change and influencing change on a global scale,
yep.
But you also made a stand locally, because you were sponsors of